This is the Always Direct podcast, and we talk with movers and shakers of this world to learn about the ups and downs they went through to get where they are now. Let's get started with the show.
This episode is brought to you by Always Direct Mail, where businesses can truly feel the power of direct mail when it's done correctly and consistently. Go to alwaysdirectmail.com to learn more. Now we have a special guest, my friend, my business associate, Steve Gumm with Gummio.com. How are you, Steve?
How's it going, my man?
So, Steve, you are an expert, really, when it comes to bringing business.
Slow down. I am just happy to be here.
Yes, but I want people need to know who you are, right?
No, I appreciate that. I'm telling you, this is live action right now. I love that you're doing this podcast, and I want people to know, like you're doing some cool things. So I'll stop interrupting.
We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yes.
How long? It's been about over a year, probably.
At least, yeah. You should have been doing it a long time ago, but I'll stop interrupting. It's your show.
No, don't worry. So Steve, you're really an expert. Well, I'll tell you, you're an expert in bringing leads to businesses. But really, I find that you're consulting. I mean, you do a lot of things, right, when it comes to with technology and scaling businesses. But one of the things that I've relied on you the most for is just, I have no idea sometimes how things work when it comes to technology, how to bridge the gap between where I am, where I want to be with certain technologies. And you always seem to have the answers, including this podcast, who you connected me with. So I want to say thank you for that. You've been really integral in my success and in my growth.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's true. So tell me about what are you doing these days? What are you working on?
So, I mean, primarily, working with organizations, basically, I think the easiest way to sum it up is just creating opportunities, man. I mean, that's really, what it's all about. And like you said, with the podcast that you're doing now, some of the things that you're doing, my job really, I mean, lead generation is a big word, right? I mean, all of these things, but ultimately it's getting inside of an organization and finding out where can we create the most opportunities. So for some organizations, for me, I deal mostly in B2B. So, depending on the organization, the client base, et cetera, it's really about how do you spark a conversation. End of story, right? If you've got a sales team, an inside sales team, whoever that point of conversation is going to be, my job is to do everything that I can to warm that up and to make those conversations happen. And then at that point, obviously those skilled professionals within the organization take over. So in some cases, as that may involve, Facebook advertising, it may involve LinkedIn outreach, it may involve direct mail campaigns, right? So no business is really the same, particularly in B2B. A lot of it comes down to, what is the short-term value and lifetime value of those prospects. That's going to dictate really how much you can invest in acquiring a customer. But my job is really just to tell the story and create those opportunities for organizations that want to grow sales. Absolutely.
And you're great at it. I mean, this is from personal experience. But everybody knows you loves you. You're just a good guy.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
So just since let's just be a little bit more topical with regards to what's going on these days. I mean, things are crazy right now. I mean, bonkers is a better way. So how do you see the future of B2B with regards to coronavirus and now Black Lives Matter and all the riots? And it's just a scary time to be in business. So are you optimistic or pessimistic? Or what's your outlook? What's your gut feeling tell you?
I mean, I'm tremendously optimistic, about really everything. I think you've got, the Black Lives Matter thing is one issue, which is, there's deeper issues there that, from a business perspective, I can't really speak on that only because I think, for me as a person, it just comes down to just be nice to people, right? Ultimately. But, whether you're talking about that or you're talking about Corona, really as things have progressed and continue to progress, the companies that are able to stay out there and, build those connections, irregardless of the obstacles, right? So the obvious obstacles right now, if you're in B2B are, if you've got a traveling sales team, that's a problem. If you're doing conferences and events, now that's a big obstacle. I mean, I've spoken to several of my peers that do huge events, which are now scaling way, way down. They're going more digital. So, as long as you and I have been, connected, John, as well as I do, some of this, even doing this podcast, shooting video, for a lot of people, that's really uncharted and uncomfortable territory that people just have to get used to. You've got to get good at delivering that message virtually. But I do think there's huge opportunity there, because if you look at, I know in my experience, a lot of the companies that I work with that do trade shows, do events, yes, there's a huge value to FaceTime and all that jazz, but there's a tremendous amount of waste going into those things that people just have been doing because that's what you do. And now I think all of this has made innovative companies really take a step back and think, okay, how can we build that experience into what we're doing on an ongoing basis if we can't physically travel or we can't physically do that event? So in my opinion, what that's going to do is the companies that do shift and make those changes and actually leverage some of the technology and these opportunities, when that switch does get turned back on, now they have the benefit of both because they've got this new skill. They're evaluating opportunities on the digital side. Maybe they decide to save a little bit of money on the booth or the event and shift some of that to what they're doing on an outreach side on digital. So again, like anything, man, it's like, this is life. In 2008, we had issues. We have issues now. This is always going to happen. And it's going to crush companies that are just either not very good at what they do, are struggling but pretending that they're not, or they're just not innovative and moving forward. But those that are innovative and continue to push the needle and look for opportunities, they're going to come out of this, I think, probably stronger than when we went into it.
Yeah, that's I kind of agree with you. It's a scary time, but yeah, I'm optimistic as well. I think the same thing. I think that if you're at a point where you can bob and weave, you might, you could actually come out stronger.
Yeah, I think you have to. I don't think you have a choice.
Well, with the restaurant space, it's been sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but with the restaurant space, a lot of our customers here. Well, we deal with Direct Mail deals with, from political campaigns to vehicle repair shops, a lot of restaurants, pizzerias, groomers, salons. They were specifically in the restaurant space was very saturated. This is going to weed them out, and this is going to get rid of all the weak ones. And then, not to say that that's a good thing, that's a sad thing. However, it will be better for the people who are left over than it was before, because every corner had 5 restaurants, which was ridiculous. So, it was hard to make money in the restaurant space before. This might help the people who are stronger now to make more money. And I feel very sorry for the ones that are suffering. But hopefully they'll find success into something else after this is over. Right? Would you agree with me on that?
For sure. Again, I think that the biggest thing is, it's a challenge, right? So what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? Whether you're in the restaurant space or the other space, I think if times were good, right? This is a good kind of test of, when times are really good, if I came to you and said, okay, John, now let's pretend for a moment you can't do seating in your restaurant. People can't come in. What would you do, right? That would be kind of a great experiment to kind of come up with innovative ways to better serve customers, find out, innovative ways to deliver product, et cetera. Or, you don't do anything and you freak out and complain, right? So it's like there's not a whole lot of choices, man. But those that are innovative, and I think, and in my experience talking to a lot of my peers, it's been eye-opening, because they're realizing like, oh man, why didn't we do that a long time ago? Whatever it may be. Like I know some of my friends are doing more, video updates, interviews to their organizations, which they would have never done prior to this. Some are looking at scaling down their events and how do you make that innovative and that experience still strong. If you're in restaurants, it's okay, now we've got to do delivery better, or we've got to do curbside pickup better, which quite frankly, a lot of customers may have wanted that anyway, right? Which may not have been in the offering. Whereas if you had thought through that in advance, it would have been an innovative approach, which now becomes more of a necessity, but still, moves things forward.
Well, right. It just happens to be a good time to be doing this because we're in
Yes.
spring and summer. All right.
Yep.
But if this happened to be coming in the end of fall towards winter, we probably wouldn't have made it. I don't think.
No.
I think a lot
It's-
of more 10% would at least would have closed down.
Yeah. I mean, make no mistake about it. I mean, there's some people that this has been a very, very unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
And I don't wish ill on anybody. I've been through it. You and I know that we could trade war stories all day long.
Oh yeah.
It's very difficult, and I feel for them, right? And so that's something that it's just really unfortunate, But for everybody else, you've got to continue to look at ways to innovate. I mean, I've got a couple of clients that are in spaces. One is a facility company that services hospitals.
What do they do?
They do fire stopping and stuff for hospitals and healthcare.
Gotcha.
They're not even allowed on the premises. You know what I mean? So their business, like they have contracts and their people, you can't even, it'd be like if I told you, okay, you got a pizza restaurant, you're not allowed to make pizza.
I know.
So what they've done though, is they were, okay, this is no good, but they have gone through a complete rebrand. They've taken the time, because all their C-level people have time to overhaul their sales and marketing process, how they go to market. And now it's starting to loosen up. So, when this thing does loosen up, they're able to get on premise, they're going to be moving really, really fast.
Leaner and meaner.
And that's something they may have never gotten around to, had they not been faced with this challenge. So it's really just, you're faced with a challenge. What do you do with it?
Yeah. And cutting costs right now is huge.
Yeah.
I go to my gym still. I have a personal trainer, and when I go in, thank you.
Yeah.
Feeling good.
Yep.
So when I walk in there, I notice that I go to plug in my phone to get charged.
Yeah.
And it's always shut off. He has it. I mean, he's so frugal that sometimes I get annoyed, but then sometimes I get jealous. I'm like, not jealous, but envious. I'm like, I wish I was as aware of my waist, but I am I need to trim more fat around my own life. But living like that, it's not like you're thinking in a sense of constraint or a lack. It's just why waste? Just formulate the habits that don't allow you to waste. And it's the little things in life that kind of add up. Another thing, back to what you were saying, is I have one of my best friends, Mickey. He works for Hilton, and he's at a team. He has a team of about 12 people. They all have an office out of WeWork, somewhere downtown. Their rent was, I don't know, $15,000-$20,000 a month. Something ridiculous. This has forced everybody to work from home.
Yep.
And well, two things. Number one, they fired all the middle management, okay, which included him, and all the lower management and everybody below him. Then they realized after about a month and a half that nobody on the upper management knew how to run the operations whatsoever. So they had to bring back all the middle management and get rid of all the people above them. And after about a month or 2 or 3, they've decided to shut the offices down completely and work from home permanently through Zoom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's actually very happy. He has a couple kids at home, and he's very happy about this. And he has more freedom and less travel, an hour there, hour back every day. He's coming from Highland Park over here in Illinois. And so, I mean, do you see a lot of that happening with the business that you're dealing with?
100%. I would say, I talked to a buddy of mine, Will Scott, who runs Culture Czars. You should actually look to have him on. Maybe he's great.
Oh, please, thank you.
But he goes in he's had a couple businesses. I've known him since the Entrepreneurs Organization days. Brilliant guy. And so he sold the business, and anyway, he started this thing called Culture Czars, where it's all about organizational culture, right? And I was talking to him, and he said it's been fascinating for him to watch, because you've got a lot of old school mentality in leadership positions that really believe in that. It's not a distrust, right? But it's a belief that if you're not in the office and I can't see you, you're not being productive. And he said almost without fail, they're finding out, man, not only are we getting more done and we're more productive, people are happier. So he's seeing a lot of organizations that are making it completely optional, come into the office or don't, and or they're getting rid of the overhead in the office space entirely. Because
I find that hard to believe.
well, it's interesting because like if you think about like you and I when we meet, it's all over the place, right? Odd hours, you name it. Some people just are more efficient, at starting at 2:00, right? So what it does is enables people to like take a break. They don't feel like someone's watching them. They can go for a run.
Sure.
They can take their kids to school without feeling like they've got to ask permission to run out. They come back to get their work. So I think what they're finding is people are not all built the same, and so as employees, when you give people the flexibility to be great and be held accountable for, whatever the results may be, but enable them a little bit of freedom to be efficient when they know they're going to be the most efficient, remove some of that pressure and stress of, quite frankly, it's like hiding, right? People are always nervous, like, oh, where's my boss? It's shocker, right? It still works. The company still runs,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I guess I'm more of an office guy. I just think of myself as I got to go to an office. If I had to stay home every day, I think that I'd be cracking open a bottle of wine by 12. I'd be, I might not get out of my pajamas. I don't know. I just feel like taking a shower, shaving, brushing your teeth, and getting out of the house is like part of my routine that I just can't live without. How about you? What kind of, are you that kind of guy or?
Not really. I mean, I like the flexibility, because I am one who, it depends on the day. Like if I'm feeling sluggish, it's good for me to, on a random day, go out for a run or take a break, right? And then maybe I work into the evening one day. It varies. But I do think like when you're the owner, like you're in a different situation because it's your office, it's your team. So kind of being at home base in headquarters makes a lot of sense. But to a lot of employees, just cutting down the drive, particularly if it's significant. I mean, that's huge, man. There's people that are going to save 2 hours a day just sitting in a car. So when you give an employee that kind of freedom, it's like, awesome, man. Now those 2 hours I can use on me and my family. And now maybe I'll work a little harder, be more efficient, be more clear-headed. I think it's all good. I mean, the results will be, TBD, as it were. But I mean, I think it's interesting just to watch how things are kind of, evolving across the board.
Yeah. So do you think trade shows, how long do you think it's going to be before trade shows come back? Or conferences?
I think you're going to see them come back pretty soon.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to a couple of my friends that are heavy in that space. I think what you're going to see is massive changes at those shows. I was talking to Paul Bellantone, who's the president and CEO over at PPAI, huge Promotional Products Association International, great guy. And he was explaining they just snuck their show in this year. Like he got lucky, huh? When was that? February, March. Anyway, they snuck it in. But he was talking about like next year will be half the size and more innovative on the tech side, right? To keep the training and the experiences going. And then he's created something that he's calling health fatality, which I think is great. So like they're adapting, but from the sounds of it, the shows will start to come back. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the market and if there's an uptick in the
second
corona
wave,
or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's too much. I mean, there's so much at stake. You look at everything that's being on hold from the sports to these events. It's like at some point you either say we're never going to do it or you start to dip your toe in and do it slowly. But I would say worst case scenario, I'd be shocked if in the fall they weren't at least doing some type of small type of conference events, but not, it's not going to be the same. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you think about it. When you go to Allstate Arena, which is one of the big stadiums over here in Illinois, I mean, those seats, I watched Disney on Ice or something like that recently, and I wanted to die how close I was sitting next to people, and I couldn't get out. It was packed. It was dark, and there was screaming people all around me, and I couldn't move. Now, those guys, what are you going to do every other chair? And can you afford to do that? I mean, these trade shows need volume. These conferences need volume. Unless you double the charge, I don't know.
Well, you got to figure there's got to be some give and takes. You look at McCormick Place, you look at Allstate Arena. Do you want an event or don't you? So if you want an event, there's got to be some give and take on the cost, the facility cost, and the labor that goes into that. And to your point, if you're going to have half of the show, you got to make that the cost whatever it is. Like something's got to give. I don't think the answer will be to increase pricing unless you've got some spectacular experience, which is possible, right? But it'll be interesting, man, and it's kind of cool. I mean, it's unfortunate, but really, like, what a time to innovate and find out. There's a lot of opportunity out there if you look for it right now, for sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple of questions to end our little conversation here. What's your favorite book?
Endurance.
Really?
Hands down. Alfred Lansing, The Story of Endurance.
Really? Never heard of it.
Business book, leadership book you'll ever read. And it's about it's a true story. Antarctic voyage, early 1900s, just crazy. I mean, they get shipwrecked like in the middle of the freezing conditions, and they're out there for an eternity. And just the way these guys survive, the attitudes, the leadership, the way they navigate, take chances. It's a book you, first of all, can't put down. It's just a great book. But
I'm gonna get it.
Adapting that to business and leadership, it's an amazing book.
All right. And brains or balls, which was more important?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a good question, man. I would say brains ahead of it for sure. You can be, I mean, the drill. I mean, you're talking about Jackass. A lot of those guys out there, and not those guys that prep and actually do the movie Jackass. There's a lot of people out there that have, balls to do crazy stuff. But if you don't think through it and have a plan, it could end pretty badly.
And I don't disagree, but there are a lot of that argue yes, but
you got to have both.
The brains, they think too much, and they overdo it so much that they end up not doing anything. 100%. Sometimes the dumber when you don't think too much, you have more action behind you.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I mean, you like boxing and fighing. You know what I mean? You got to have both, right?
You got to have both.
But if you go out there just swinging and trying to knock someone's head off, and you got someone that's thinking through it.
No strategy, right?
No strategy. Yeah.
Steve, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Once again, this show was sponsored by Always Direct Mail, alwaysdirectmail.com. If you need any kind of direct mail needs, postcards, targeted, saturation, they have it all. Well, it's my company. We have it all. So just call 866-407-6245. That's 866-407-6245. And if you need anything for your business, B2B specifically, go to gummio.com and ask for Steve Gumm. You will not be disappointed. He's amazing. And I have personal experience with him. So I really appreciate you coming on the show, taking the time. I know you're busy. So thank you, Steve.
Thanks, man. This was great. A lot of fun.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Always Direct podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.